All right, let's see if this will actually go through. Hey, LB. I'm just trying to see if this will go through. I don't want to give my introduction for like a third time. I'm using Lula TV as my streaming service. It is not very stable, but we will see. We're going to talk about how you're not really going to have arguments the way that you're used to having arguments when you're in your divine feminine energy, and how that looks and how it manifests itself, and what the alternatives are. So when someone says something you don't like, hey, LB, when you're in a relationship and a man or even a woman says something you don't like, how instead of you coming immediately back reactionary, how being in your divine feminine forces you to take a break, sit, think about your emotion and process, and then respond, in a way, and how you use the principles of, I wrote some notes, vulnerability, vetting, that it really circumvents that. And you're just in this thing where you're not sitting here attacking each other. So I'm using Lula TV. It stopped like twice before. So I'm just trying to see if it's going to stop again, and if we can continue. I think tomorrow I'm going to test StreamYard, instead, because that's what all the cool kids are using. But it looks like it's going to be stable. So I'll start. Okay. No more arguments. All right. So I have been talking recently what's on my heart. The last 2 years, my spirit guides and spirit teams have been saying divine feminine, divine feminine, divine feminine. December 21st, 2020, the divine feminine got here. It was already coming, but like Sophia is here, which is the dual counterpart to God. So I'm an angelic channeler and healer. I channel angels for healing as well as for information and guidance. I also channel my ancestors and other spiritual beings. I also do healings with my ancestors, my spirit guides, and the angels to heal. We are working with kids to get them focused. We're working with people who have back pain. I have worked with 2 clients with back pain. Worked with people on their business to get like just higher. I'll channel the angels, like archangels. What does she need to focus on right now in her downtime, to go forward, and divine feminine relationships. So that's what I do. That's for this channel. I'm an angelic channeler and medium with the higher realms. Anyone can do it. I literally teach these classes, but you just got to show up and practice, right? And so many people I've told have this ability and they didn't care to follow up on it, which is sort of like, don't you want to be more powerful and have access to information other people don't have? I don't know. I like power. So I went for it and developed those skills over the last 4 years. In another lifetime, I am a best-selling author of a property. I have a platform in real estate investing. I teach Black professionals how to invest in Black neighborhoods. We look in properties that cost anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000. We do not do gentrification, and I'm very proud to say that we are people who actually go into Black communities and invest in them. We are not Black professionals who just talk about it. We are about it, and I don't know if anyone else can say that. And I attract very high caliber people, so I'm very proud of the people in the community. I have a Facebook group of 11,000 Black investors from all over the country, and I have a Times.com article coming out about my story. They've been quoting me recently, and I guess they liked how I articulate things and my depth of knowledge. And so I will post that. So I'm not just a random person, although I could be because my content is accurate. But I want you to know, like, I come like with something. Like, if you want to know what does she have, should I be listening to her? My life reflects that I've been listening to spirit. I've been channeling. I have been guided by something higher to make sure we started a movement that was bigger than myself and for our community collective. So that's who I am. And I've been talking about the divine feminine. That's been on my heart. I've been 2 years ago, I was approached during my angelic healing session, the goddess Oshun stepped forward and was like, it's time to get in touch with the divine feminine. I didn't really know what it was, but I was very masculine in my energy. So the last 2 years, they've been like, nope, take it back, take it back, take it back. And now I embody that, but there's so much power in it. And it's so much less tension with men. And like when I talk to men now, being in that divine intimate energy, it's interesting. Like before I even start communicating, because I'm dating right now, I've been, 2 years of dating, but I start smiling before I talk to them because it's a completely different energy. I'm not a man when I talk to them. I'm in my divine feminine. So it doesn't matter. And I'm telling you, it's not how cute you are. It's your energy, right? Oh, thank you, LB. LB says this topic is timely. So you don't live there? I don't live where? In the houses that I rent? Oh no, I live in a black neighborhood. Yeah. I'm laughing because I live in a nice house, and I'm like, I don't know, there's gunshots. Oh, don't bother me. But no, I live in a black neighborhood. I live in a half black city. And I did that on purpose. FYI, anyone who is black looking to move to a place, you want to move wherever there's an HBCU, and you want to move there because generally where there's HBCUs and there's educated black elite, they generally are in the power structure. So when you look at the legislature, black mayors, right? All the mayors are black. When you look at the judicial system, half the judges are black, half the prosecutors are black. And when you look at legislative, so just legislative, judicial, the police force, you should move anywhere where the power structure looks like you. So yes, I invest in black communities. I live in black communities, which is great because when I go to the local grocery store, they have well-seasoned chicken. So sorry if that's a stereotype. That's all. It's one of the things I eat from there is their fried chicken. They have like the best fried chicken at this local grocery store. So gosh, that sounded so stereotypical. I'm sorry, but it's true. It's like walkable too. Although this part, it's slowly gentrifying for the people who aren't so scared of us. So yeah, that's who I am, what I do. Bigger than like this channel is that, but the divine feminine is here. And so my knowledge comes from experience that my spirit guides, because I'm so closely communicated, they send me through things so I can learn lessons, and they send you do it through it too. And if you had the ability to talk to them, they would be like, this is the lesson. This is for your growth. This is for your evolution, right? Since I have that ability, I'm just really aware. Okay, this relationship with these people is that. And they don't give me all the answers because I still have to come and learn and do it. But it helps if you can check in every once in a while and be like, okay, am I doing this right? And follow source. So it's just really obvious to me when like there's a learning lesson. And so being in your divine feminine, it's such an interesting thing. The way I interact with men is different. So out on the street, even if I'm not dressed up, they can sense my energy. And I swear, even when I'm not dressed up, like they react to that softness and warmth. And like, they're like so far away and they don't have to stop their car to let me cross, but they're going to. They don't have to open the door, but they're going to. They don't have to stop their car to smile, but they do. Like it's funny, and it's not that I'm the most attractive woman. And I'm cool with that. I'm not saying that in a weird way. I'm attractive enough to the guys who like me, right? And I always have been. So I don't have any low self-esteem issues, even though you're like, oh, she's not a 10. Well, I'm a 10 in my heart, right? And that attracts to me really good quality men who want a strong woman who knows who she is. But I was telling another one, like, even before I start talking to men, like on the phone or through texting, because I'm, actively dating and getting out of a soulmate relationship that taught me a lot of these principles before I even knew they were divine feminine. I just knew I was acting really different. And I'll go into that. And, I start smiling before I text or talk to them. It's like a completely different energy, but also I'm not arguing anymore. There are other ways that you learn, very feminine ways to get the same point across. So FYI, before I start going into like the details, like I am a strong woman, but you will see when you look at how I interact with things, it's not reactionary, but it's still strength, right? So I'm not arguing with the people, but that doesn't mean that my needs are not expressed or taken care of. You're just not doing it in the same way, right? It's a different dynamic. And since you're such a polar opposite to men who are always around other men who are like this, and when they shoot something at you, you just sort of take it, you spin it around, and you come back in like more of a measured, softer, general way and explaining your feelings and boundaries, it's easy for them to be in your presence. And so then all of a sudden your energy is this magnetic energy that just makes them feel good, because when they shoot something at you, they're not getting anything back. Right? So there aren't any arguments like there was when I was in my masculine energy, where they shot something at me and I didn't quite like it. I would immediately react with like logic. But now it's like, okay, how do I feel about it? And what you're learning to do, if you look at my other videos, you learn how to process your feelings in a healthy way. We are emotional, but that's not bad as women. That's not bad at all. We just haven't been taking the time to process them. And then when you do process them, when you're being honest, like, look, I was just uncomfortable because I just had a conversation with one of the guys I'm dating where I was reassessing after the third date. Are we going to keep going? And I was like, I got stressed out. I did not like this. So are you okay with that? Can you do it? And my job is the observer. Do they do it or do they not? But like not trying to force it, right? And when you're embodying that you are like a valuable person. You've done this work. You are the soft energy. It's not about forcing the men to do anything. It's about letting them know what you need and how you feel and seeing if they care enough to respond. And that's just something we've lost getting out of that. LB says, tapping into my divine feminine, yet the supreme mother inside me is overly defensive now, girl. Oh. So I will say a big part of that is like, it's okay that you're defensive, because maybe you're just not meeting men who care enough about your needs. So you do get worked up. But our big part is to find and only talk to the men that care about how we feel. So 90% of the dating apps and people I meet, I X out. They just don't care. Like, they're just trying to find someone easy, and I'm just not at that place anymore. Like I was when I was younger. You know, I'm from Vegas, so y'all know I was having fun. But now that I'm older, I'm just like, no, I just don't want that in my life. That's enough of that. And there's too many guys out there who just wants to like drag it on. But I would say you are completely fair in being that way, LB, if you're defensive. And I think the big part of that is just being open, but waiting to find the right guy who does care about your feelings and shows that. So then that will automatically disarm you. So you're not so defensive, because you see a guy, as long as you explain what you want and you're honest and they respond from their heart and they care and they're listening, trust your defenses are going to go down, because that's exactly what happened with my soulmate relationship. I'm not with my soulmate. If any of you had a soulmate relationship, it's not necessarily happily ever after, but you do grow and learn. And all of those things that I learned were divine feminine principles from a soulmate connection. Due to past PST relating to abuse, I've healed, but a bit tougher. Yeah, like honor that. That's okay, LB. Like that is okay. So your biggest job is discernment, right? So in their last relationship, hopefully you learned how to vet a man and look for the red flags and hopefully trust yourself. So if they do something and you don't feel good, because remember, this is about honoring your feelings, right? Not pressing them down. You have to honor it. I don't feel good about this. Being able to express that. And when they don't care or they show uncaring or their actions show that they might placate you, but they do the exact opposite, honoring those feelings, putting those boundaries up and leaving. So I hope you learn that. So going forward, if you can take that into account, what will happen is that you'll vet your men better. So I hope you learned how to do that. Trust me, you find the right one because you're vetting properly. I got to do a whole video on vetting, to be honest. If you're vetting properly, you are going to get someone who is completely disarm you by just being themselves, because they care about your feelings. And if you express them, they care about your feelings. If you say it to them, they'll do it. I was just getting off the phone with one of the other guys I'm dating. I'm dating multiple people, as you should too. You should court until married. No more boyfriend, girlfriend. And, it was just like, I like talking to you because I feel so appreciated, right? So if you vet really well, you'll get to the point where you're just going to find that guy. It'll take care of itself. See, LB says, my current one is very patient, and poor him. As I heal, I feel bad for my reflexes at time. You know what, beautiful? You know what? As long as and I would journal this. I actually made a journal. I'm going to send it out to everyone. So follow my YouTube channel. Talk about that, because part of the leveling up and upraising yourself is catching these emotional triggers. So they're no longer triggers. So you're not so reactionary, right? So write about it. What did he do that caused you to react in like anger or I can't trust you? So since I can't trust you, I'm either getting pissed because I used to react like that. I'm getting pissed because I can't trust you and I don't think you're going to do it. I don't think you're going to listen. And write those things out, because every time you realize what you're doing emotionally and you acknowledge it and you release it, you level up, right? So that's what I would do for you. So no more arguments being in the divine feminine. So being in the divine feminine, so I'm going to say this again. The ultimate place is like, honestly, it's almost like, I'm going to do a video on this. It's almost like when I manifest with God, right? And I go, God, this is what I want. This is how I feel. And God says, okay, I'll help you manifest it, but I don't know how. Being with a male-female relationship is honestly, and this is going to sound real crazy, but it's true. You are telling them what you want and seeing if they can provide the solution without telling her or trying to control them with what to do. LB said, yes, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Good. I'm so happy for you. As long as you learn, everyone will feel your energy as you shift up and having more emotional stability. right? Because being in the divine feminine taught me emotional maturity and spiritual maturity. You want both? Go into this divine feminine study, period. Okay. So being in the divine feminine, I'm going to say this again, and I say this in all my videos, but I build on it on the other videos. The primordial way that we were made to be together is this circle. The men are the strong providers. We are soft, feminine energy where they can relax and just calm down and not have to compete like they do out there. They love that because that's their rest period with you as a woman. That's their soft period. That's their understanding. It's a place where they can feel and understand. And so doing that in your divine feminine, I feel, he provides, you receive. It's beautiful. And it's true. This is real. So I feel, so learning how to feel and honor and express with vulnerability what you're feeling, be it good or not so good. Now we'll talk about warmth and presenting it in a way that doesn't get them defensive or antagonistic, right? But that is the basic dynamic. So when you're in that, so also, if you look at the divine feminine, it is observing. If you look at the man at that part, it's reactionary. So he reacts, but instead of you reacting and going back, so it's like this, he reacts, you receive and observe. You feel. How do I feel about that? I don't feel it's right. Why don't I feel it's right? I'm scared that if we do this, this is going to happen, and that makes me nervous, right? That's how I felt about it. So instead of reacting immediately with anger, I received it, I felt it out, and I went deeper, right? And it gets easier as you do this. And then, so when I expressed it to him, I'm scared if we do that, it makes me nervous that this is what's going to happen. You saw how something that could have potentially been like, even with my ex-husband, who I had a pretty contentious, I'm starting to see a change. My ex-husband, he's not like awakened. So he'd be making it. But even then, it's getting better because of this divine feminine energy. And they react to that. So instead of arguments, they lob it. And he's like, I want her to go to school and get a vaccination. And if you've been paying attention to my channel, I'm like, no, it's spiritual warfare. But instead of reacting and like, no, it's like, listen, this is how I feel. This is what I'm nervous about. And it's not necessary. And and we can do this, right? But instead of going back like this, you took it, receive it, and then expressed how you felt. So, and I'm going to show you this. So it's never like this. I have not had an argument in a man in 2 years, even on my social media. I be saying some stuff that people aren't ready to hear. I'm not wrong. They're just not at that level. So when I say, Black men have worried more about integrating into white society than building their own communities and protecting their own, that's a big statement. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. I'm just at that level of enlightenment and awareness of the macro level dysfunction, what's going on. But so they'll be like, well, Black women do. And so even then, they're not my husbands. They're not in relationships. You're not going to hear me go on an attack. Well, you and nope, I'm still like listening. Okay, he got really emotional about that. I'm not going to reply with that emotion. But what I will say is this. And all of a sudden, someone I might have blocked in the past, it's like, even with them, it's like, it's yin yang. And they calm down. And we can actually be friends at the end because we are emotional. But our job is to sit with our emotions and determine them. And then I'm like, well, why don't you imagine this world? So this is what I mean. Don't be emotional. Do you see this? Do you see this? Do you see this? Instead of reacting to his reacting, which is a masculine energy. So sometimes you say masculine, feminine, people think it's just look pretty, but no, it's a whole dynamic that we were made to do. But you just have to trust me that when you do it, it is beautiful for you as a woman. And it's beautiful for them as a man because they get like, they feel it. They feel that like, oh, there's not going to be this. So they're prepared to fight and they're not getting it. And they like not fighting, just like you like not fighting. So being in that space, you're going to naturally start. And it doesn't mean take everything, because trust and believe. I just did a video. This one chick lied on me, and she's super masculine. And I put it like Cynthia G's a liar. And she is. And I have proof and receipts because, just because I didn't come back at her like, oh, you da-da-da-da-da, you masculine, da-da-da-da. Just because I didn't do that does not mean I'm not strong or smart. I didn't get my point across. I did it I put so much shame. You know what I mean? So please don't equate the two. It's a different type of strength, but you're also able to diffuse things, keep things level, and people who you would have blocked or written off, you give them a chance to be, but you also have this strength to be bigger than that, and not in a weird way, because you know you're going to tell them what you want and what you think, but it diffuses it. So it's never like this contentious thing. So being in the divine feminine with these principles, that's literally what's happening. So, so yeah, so the other big part of that, and I have a comment before I go into the conflict part and how conflicts look now for me. And like I said, 2 years with men, not just the men I'm dating or my ex-husband, right? Who had pretty contentious, but even people on social media or meet in the street, it's completely different. LB says, yes, though it's been work, the alignment is happening gently. Then thank you for your input. I'll be back. All right. Bye, LB. Oh, I'm so happy for you, LB. Okay. She was talking about being in her feminine, but still reacting with defensiveness. And I'm like, girl, it's okay. Just make sure you learn from it so that you don't continue to be triggered by the same thing, and you can grow and heal and be that more beautiful, less triggered emotional woman for her man, right? So vulnerability. So when you're sitting here and instead of reacting with anger and you're observing before you react, and I got to tell you how I'm raising my daughter, because it's with these principles, and I'm like, oh, if I would have known this when I was a kid, oh my God, like I would have been like, had tons of suitors. So vulnerability. So when you take the time you have the time to assess, okay, do I want to continue talking to this man? Was he outright disrespectful? Is this something that I cannot stand? Or was it just like he reacted angrily and emotionally and in more of an attacking manner? But is this something that I want to engage with? And if I do want to engage, how? It gives you the chance to do that and to decide. And then for me, a lot of the time, so let's say social media, because that's the place where it's like I get a lot more potential conflicts. Because like I said, I lob some balls. It comes, and then I take the time to think about it. And if it's someone I respect, I'll be like, look, you just got to understand that this is what's happening. Women are scared, da 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 da. And we feel like we have no one. Okay. And so it's having vulnerability and admitting, I'm scared, I'm nervous, because usually the conflict comes because I fear of something, right? Scared, nervous, fearful, uncomfortable. That puts you in a different position. But having the ability to say that is very disarming for men. And unless they're really crude, which is also something you're observing, they respond to that. But even if they are crude, you're supposed to look at that response. And instead of reacting immediately, think about it and then go, I need to cut this person out, because vetting is a big part of this. And we're going to talk about that last, because that's the last part. You can't just let anyone into your field if they're not deserving of it. Okay. Keep your value high. And so so that's like social media, and like, it's still very disarming. But when you're in a relationship and you're not just like, when something happens or they say something, I want to do this and you don't, and you're scared, or you're like, I want to buy this and you don't, and taking the time to think and going through your emotions. Like, I don't feel comfortable because financially this and this happened in my past, and it takes me to that place, and this is what my concerns are, or whatever it is. But just being open and honest, it literally, I learned through the soulmate relationship that we had that was forced on me, but it was nice, even though it's crazy and it can be very highs and lows. It got to the point where I just learned I had to tell him what I feel. Otherwise, I feel so uncomfortable, or I have all these thoughts in my head that aren't right. So I learned, like, you know what? I'm just going to tell you, like, I want this. I want a protector. I want a provider. Like, da 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 da. And I remember the first time I said that, like, you want to hold back on it. But I remember I said that and it was just like, he melted. Like, I didn't do it to make anyone melt. I did it because I was like, this isn't working, not expressing this emotions. It's just not working. And then I found that, like, it got easier and easier. But when you express that, and when, like I said, we're observing, I'm going to get to the vetting part. If they care and they show they care, that's the one you want to be with, or at least keep around for a little bit longer to observe them longer, right? And so when the conflicts came, it sit with it, and being vulnerable, it's not an argument. There's no argument. You're like, I want to do this. And you're like, oh, like, or you want something and you express it with vulnerability. And even if they don't want it, like the way that you expressed it, like, I feel lonely when you're not around, or we don't do this, or I feel like our emotional bank account's empty, and they hear those words, you're just not gonna have an argument. So, or like I'm stressed, when you don't, when you say you're gonna do this and you don't take out the trash or garbage, like it really gets me in this place. And then I think that you're not listening or you don't care about my emotions. And when you can say that vulnerability, like there's no arguments. There's no arguments. It's either you found someone, and we're going to talk about vetting, that cares, or you don't, and you're observing their actions. And if you've been vetting properly, which we're going to talk about, and because I'll get into the vetting part later, and you do find the person who does care and show you they care about what your vulnerability, and you can be vulnerable with, there aren't arguments, because you know that your life, and if something comes up that you don't like, it's just a series of you expressing that, and then them providing a solution for it in their own way, and you not controlling it. Because there are literally times I'm like, look, I'm unhappy about this. I literally said, I'm giving this to you to solve. Now, soulmate did not solve it, and we parted because I went, okay, I expressed this to you. I wanted to do more of this, more dating, more that. It didn't happen. Okay, I see you. I'm going to leave and go on to other things. And so even then, it's no argument. You need to say what you mean what you say, stick by your own convictions, okay? And if they're not being met, disengage. And I'm actually going to do a whole video on how walking away sparks so much transformation. But walking away, right? And it's still not control about them. It's being strong in your truth and your value, and not letting them take you from it, and not getting angry at them if you allow yourself to be taken from that place. So that is why the vetting is the most important part. So this is the last part of this, so that the conflicts aren't arising. So the men energy is, okay, I'm immediately attracted, da 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 da. Women energy is, we need to take longer to sit and observe. And it's literally a bunch of you being vulnerable, seeing how they react to it. You being in your feelings, seeing how they react. You observing, expressing this, see how they react. Do they care or do they not? Okay, that's it. So this is a series of a long-term, it's long-term. You're looking at the how they react to you being in your feminine, and not making any decision until you see that, okay, they pretty much do care about my happiness or my feelings, or if I'm angry or if I'm upset, they care. I'm definitely going to keep this one around as dating potential for the future, because they're showing they actually care about my emotional happiness and my emotional needs being met, as long as I do my part. So this is a high value divine feminine women. I do my part at going deep and expressing any vulnerability or just how I'm feeling, keeping that on instead of going, it's fine. No, say what you mean and mean what you say. And if you've been vetting them and seeing how they react and observing in their women energy, there's going to be a point where you realize, okay, he really didn't care how I felt, right? Like, I've had that. So it's okay. You're supposed to vet and observe that. Now, pretty much the men I attract are provider type men who know how to take care of a woman. So I'll tell you why. My programming from a young age, my mom, when I was 10, handed me a romance novel, which is completely sort of inappropriate, but I don't know, because they have all those like sexual scenes. But in my mind, and mine was historical romance. They weren't like Zane, which is all about like sex, lack of commitment. It was all about like historical romance. And it was set on like the British aristocracy. So it was like always like men love you and they want to provide and prepare for you. And it was very gentlemanly, right? In that British Caucasian culture, right? And with that being the case, I always had an idea that I was going to get a protector and provider, and that's all I would settle for. I wouldn't settle for anything less. I'm reading it. This sounds so beautiful, to be loved and cherished and protected. So I only looked for men like that. I only expected that. There were guys who were not gentlemanly, who did not care, wasn't trying to provide. I just saw the difference because I had 10 years of programming of romance novels in my head. I accept that programming. Like, that's not something I'm trying to take away. I just really love the idea of being loved, cherished, and protected. So even, leveled up or not leveled up, that's what I was looking for. And you can find that if you know what you want and you won't settle for less, you're going to get it, period. I don't care who you are. You are, okay? And so I always attracted or looked for men who cared about me. Like, I know that sounds basic, but cared about how I felt, cared about my happiness. And so that is what you're looking for. So the women energy is long term and a series of you expressing and seeing if they care. Sometimes they don't. Okay. I was cool to cut them off because my programming was like, I accept nothing less than love. Okay. Someone who died for me. Okay. And I would do the same because I'm a warrior. So, I like to fight. I just fight differently now. And we're going to talk about divine feminine and silence and how when you get into this, you have to learn other ways to make your thing, what is known. I'm going to do divine feminine, and silence is the partner, which is still like, if you think about it, masculine energy is da 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 da, and feminine energy, you're still strong, but you're just doing it in a different way. And me sharing my vulnerability, that's strength. Who else can share what's wrong and not be scared that the man might leave and da 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 da? I just don't have those hangups. So the vetting process, the long term, is part of your divine feminine. And if we did this as a whole and as a collective, not only are we a soft space for the men to be in, which is beautiful, right? That's beautiful. Not only are we this soft space and energy, not only are we not going to argue with them. Now, we're not going to take BS, but we're not arguing. It's a different energy. We're not point counterpoint. It hasn't happened in a couple years. Not even on social media, because I've had some people come over here and say some crazy stuff. I didn't attack. I just went, okay, that's how I'm going to handle this. You know what I mean? So you even see in my interactions that it's just a softer energy. I'm not trying to go back and forth with you like that. I'm trying to sit and observe before I react. And that is being in your divine feminine. So I want to, like, it's observing. It's not reacting, but it still has strength. It still has a ton of strength. And they love it. Okay. As I love it. And my friends, like, you know what? I was just scared. Like, I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, everyone loves it. So it's not just men, but they especially respond to that from an evolutionary point of view, because that's how they were designed to respond. It's all about that weirdo. So it's all about that bowel strength. I don't know. He's a weirdo. I think someone else left a comment. I don't know what that eyeball and a guy looks like he's vacuuming the floor is. Twitter, y'all on some stuff sometimes. You just get anybody on Twitter. Yeah, so that's it. And I'm going to go into divine feminine and silence, which is extremely effective and just as strong, but you're not in that super masculine energy. And so talking about the observing, I want to talk about my daughter. She's 4, but it's funny, like, a little kid goes through the same thing adults go through, and I talk to them about it. Like, I've already had conversations with my 4-year-old daughter, like, she's like, I want to marry this boy at school, because girls just want to marry. I was like, listen, lady, the boy's the one that proposes, okay? I remember I told her to her. She looked at her dad and was like, Mommy's lying a little bit. I was like, girl, nope, I'm not. Or, I tell her, okay, listen, I say no to something, and then she starts crying, and I calm her down, and I go, I need you to think about it. Now, if you didn't react that way, you would have known that after we do this activity, you get to watch TV while I'm doing your hair, right? Yeah. Don't we do this every time I do your hair? Yes. Okay. So instead of reacting and crying, I want you to take a moment to think about it, little girl, and go, how do I use this to my advantage? Right? How do I think about what I do want and get that? And it's beautiful. No one told me this stuff, right? And it happened again, like me and her dad, when we meet each other, we drive an hour and 15 minutes each way to, like, pick her up. So we each have a tablet, and she got in the car. He didn't have his. And she starts crying, right? And I'm like sitting her down. This is about, like, being able to sit and observe her feelings and think about it. So yeah, she's 4 and she's not going to get things like an older kid, but she gets enough, and you're not surprised to know I got a smart baby, right? You shouldn't be surprised about that. And like, okay, Layla. And so you do this enough time, your daughter's going to get it. All right, Layla, you immediately started crying, but if daddy forgot his tablet, what else can you do? No. Stop crying. Okay. What else? Think about it. Does mommy have her tablet? Can you ask to borrow it? Because you've done that before. Yes, mommy, can I borrow it? Yes. So next time something happens, I want you, instead of immediately going to a tantrum, I want you to think, well, what's a solution? And so I know my daughter, I know if I do this enough time with solutions, she can stop and go, how can I get what I want? And I love the fact that because of my emotional journey and my emotional maturity at this level, I can pour that into a 4, 5, 6 year old young girl to grow up knowing that, like, I have the power, I can chill. If some things don't go your way, I don't have to throw a tantrum. I could sit and observe in my feminine energy and think of a way to do it without reacting immediately, right? Can you imagine if you would have been able to learn this as a young child? But I had to do a lot of work to get here, which I gladly take because I love the level of growth I've had because I've taken this up. But like, just imagine if you would have learned as a girl not to immediately react, but to sit and think and then go about your business. And it's just not something that my parents were necessarily equipped to. You know, the way I talk to my daughter, it's like I recognize that she is a strong spirit. And so I talk to that versus talking to a 4-year-old. So she's 4, but she can understand, right? And so she's going through things. She still have people who are nice one days and mean one. Like she goes through bullies already. Like just because they're 4, when they're at the daycare, she's getting everything 40-year-olds get, right? And I try to like pour that into her like a tool set. Like, what do you do when you see this? How do you know already? Because it doesn't stop. Like whatever conflicts you see right now at 40, it's at the daycare, which makes sense because they're still kids. It's just on a different level, but it's still the same dynamic. So I love being able to pour these divine feminine intellects. So she's, in my mind, the goal and intentions for her to grow up. And when things happen, or when she's talking to men, or when she's talking to anybody, they throw something at her. And instead of her reacting with her emotions, she's already learned to sit back, think, and go, well, okay, that's what you said. But is there another way to do this where I get the results that I need, and being calm about it so you don't get anyone defensive, but you have the chance to come and present after you've thought things through, and then generally work whatever you want into it. So I will end on that. I'm also going to do one on Divine Feminine in Silence if you want to join. I just had like 8 videos I wanted to do, so I'm just going to do them all tonight. So if you stay tuned, you can hear about more on this journey if you want. All right. Thank you guys so much for all the